me today. My name's Vera. I'm a health and wellness instructor from Stonebridge Community Services, and I'm here today at the Port Stanley Fitness Center with a workout that focuses on good balance. I hate to say it, but winter's coming. We're at more risk of slipping and falling, so if we start to practice our balance now, it will help to keep you safe. So the cord is here for protection, but if you do need a chair or even a walker in front of you for a little more stability, that's definitely an option. I'm not going to have one here just because I want you to see what I'm doing, but it's definitely good to, if you need to have your hands on that chair, that's fine. If you want to make it a little harder, you lift a finger or two, and then as you get more confident and do the workout a few more times, maybe you can hover your hands above that chair. I'm here today in bare feet because our feet have all these sensory receptors that tell our brain what our feet are doing and help us correct balance. So if you're comfortable with it, practicing balance in bare feet's really a helpful way to get that feedback. If that's not comfortable for you, by all means wear your shoes. We want you to be comfortable here. And we're going to start today with a little exercise that just shows us how stable our hips are. So I'm starting with my hands right on the top of my hip bones, and all I want to happen is as I unweight one foot, I want to keep the hands as level as possible, and the hands are just there to give us a little feedback. The other thing we're trying to avoid is postural sway, so when we lift, we're trying not to lean to the sides, just trying to stay as stable as we can. I did have a concussion a couple years ago. I was rear-ended, and it's amazing how much effect that can have on balance. I used to have really great balance, and so today's exercises are actually some of my rehab exercises, and the more we work on balance, the better it gets. So don't just accept that you have bad balance. It's something that we can really work on and correct. And so by your hip dropping, all I mean is that when we lift, we don't want that hip to fall down. That shows glute weakness. So we just want to make sure that we can lift from side to side without having that happen. And now there's a few things that impact our vision, our balance, and one of them is vision. So when we move our eyes, it changes our perspective and it might affect your balance. The other thing is there's little rings in our ears that have little sensory receptors that tell us where we are in space. So little balls that float around and give us feedback on our space. So when we move our head, our balance is also affected. So we're going to start with easier exercises and progress. But as soon as you get to an exercise that feels too hard for you or too challenging, just stay with the exercise before, and then when we master that one, you can move on. So the first one we're going to do today is unweighting one foot. So you might be on your big toe, or you might be lifting that foot all together. We want to engage your core, and all that means that if you poked yourself or if somebody gave you a gentle push, you'd be nice and protected, your core's engaged. And then from here, I'm going to bring both hands up in front. And they're my targets, so we're going to start with that vision. So without moving your head, we're going to let our eye look at one thumb and then the other. And back and forth. So the concussion did affect my vision, and also stroke will affect your vision in a lot of different maladies that we could have. And we're seeing with kids that they're staring at screens all day, so peripheral vision's getting less and less it's utilized, and we're seeing that kids are having worse eyes because they're not using that periphery. When we were hunter-gatherers, we were looking around for our survival, but that's not happening anymore. So eye exercises are really good for your eyes. They do help with vision, and also it will help with balance. So it's one of the ones that we use, just looking back and forth, trying not to move your head at first, just introducing the brain to that balance concept. Perfect. Perfect. And only when that's okay, if you can look over at one thumb and then let your nose go towards that thumb. A little more challenging. And then look over at the other thumb and let your nose go that direction. And again, back to the first side, nose. And one more time. And over. Perfect. Let's come on down. Give yourself a little shake. Good work. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So either that big toe or lifting the foot. You never want to lift high enough that it's a long ways down. You want to be able to put that foot down as soon as you start to lose balance. The goal is to challenge ourselves in a really safe way and not put ourselves in a compromising position. So nice low foot, hands up. It's going to be harder if your hands are wider. It's going to be easier if they're closer together. So find that happy place for you. And then just eyes side to side. And just that little back and forth motion. Notice whether your neck tightens up or whether there's any tension in your shoulders, and try to let it go. And only if that's okay, let your nose turn towards your thumb. The eye leads the way. Introduce the brain to movement, and then your head follows. And then your eye looks towards the other thumb, and your head follows. Let's go 2 more. And very last one. Good job. Let the leg come down, give yourself a little shake. So one foot is a good way to practice balance. If you're not there yet, that's not a comfortable position for you. Start with your feet together, because think of a tripod. The wider the feet are, the more stable it is. The closer the feet are together, the more chance it has to fall. So if you're really starting out with balance, your balance isn't very good, try just putting your feet closer and closer together and doing the same exercises. You don't have to lift the foot. And the next we're going to do is tandem. So we're going to slide one foot up, and imagine you're on a balance board. The balance board can be as wide as you like. The goal is to feel safe, but yet challenged. So you could have a nice wide balance board, or you could go more of a heel to toe, a little narrow balance board. And now while you're here, just notice your feet. So trying to get a good sensation of all 5 toes on the floor. Notice whether your feet are rolling out or in, and just try to stabilize, get that sensory reception up, and body awareness, just realizing what we're doing. And now notice whether you're holding more weight on your back foot or your front foot, and just try to level it out. And then when you're ready, from here we're going to take our arms out to the side, and it's going to be a little airplane ride. So just a little gentle movement. It can be as little or as big as you're comfortable with. Slower is going to be easier. Faster is going to be harder. So you work at the level that feels right for you. Perfect. And then from here, we're just going to switch the weight from the front foot to the back foot. So just that back and forth sway. And now that can look different for different people. If you're just starting out with balance exercises, you want to keep your feet on the floor and just practice how it feels to shift the weight from one foot to the other, because that's just walking, right? We need to shift weight from one foot to the other. If you're feeling pretty good about that and you want to make it a little harder, the front toe comes up and then the back heel. So just toes and heels. Arms can be wherever they need to be. If you're right back tight in the corner, if you cross your arms and you lose your balance, I'm out a little bit away from the corner, but if you were right back in the corner and you lost your balance, you'd have that corner on both sides for protection. You actually get more feedback to your brain if your shoulders hit the wall versus your hands. Your brain knows that if your hands are touching something, you're relatively safe. So as you progress with balance, when we're not doing hand exercises, having your hands crossed and being in that corner is a really great way to really practice and challenge yourself. So So we've got that airplane ride. We've got to be a little bit further away from the corner for that one. Perfect, and now let's play with some arm positions. Just challenge it in a few different directions. So let's just go shoulder rolls. A little elbow into it. The bigger you make the movement, the more your body's going to have to accommodate for movement. But think about real life. We're carrying shopping bags, we're walking, we're talking on the phone. We're doing a lot of different things at once. Somebody might call your name and you have to turn your head. We want to practice those movements so they don't catch us off guard. Perfect. And then if you really felt comfortable with that toe and heel, we can go a little further with that and lift the front foot and lift the back foot. So it's a little bit more of a rocking horse, just swaying back and forth. 3 and 4. And remember, you can hold that chair the whole time if that feels better for you. And now the next one would be better with a countertop beside you so that you have something to run your hand or just hover over the whole time. Or a hallway. Hallways are really great because you have something on each side that if you lose your balance, you can catch yourself with. We're going to go with that tightrope walking, so we're just trying to go heel to toe. And again, whatever version of that works for you. So for some people, it's going to be a little bit wider of a step, or as you get a little bit better at the exercise, you can reduce that range of motion, or that step, to reduce your stance. Oops. And that's what the corner's for. It keeps us safe. It's never going to be perfect, and that's okay. So now we're going to lead with that other leg. We're just going to edge it up until you find your happy place, that place where you feel challenged. And now all 5 toes on the floor. Get a good sense of the ground. And notice whether you're carrying more weight on your front leg or your back leg, and even yourself out. Make sure the core is engaged. And then when you're ready, we're just going to start with that little airplane ride. So just that little sway back and forth. 3 and 4. Just one more. Perfect, and hands down. And now we're going with the weight shift, so we're going to go front foot to back foot. However that looks for you, okay, whether it's lifting or not lifting, whether you want to go toes and heels, whatever's right for you. Or even those rocking horses, just that up and back. And when you're starting with balance, it's slow and controlled. If you do have a brain injury like I had, and I'm still dealing with balance problems, and you'll see me correcting myself a lot, then everything has to slow down. I used to be able to run up to a bazoo and jump up and down and throw balls, and now I have to do everything really slowly. So don't be afraid to slow right down if you need to for balance. But never just stop challenging yourself, because the only way we get better is to keep practicing. And balance is important. If we slip and fall, there's a high probability that we can get hurt, break a hip, get hospitalized, and I don't want that to happen to any of you guys. Perfect. Okay, from here, we'll go back to that side-by-side stance. And now we're going to back up a little bit. And we're going to go right up so that that one foot's up. Again, just paying attention to your hips if you can. And now we're going to let our arms come up to the front. And take a second to really get stabilized, all 5 toes down. And then when you're ready, we're going to open and close. Open. So in real life, we have have some dynamic movement, things are moving around, so we want to get used to or introduce that to us in our balance training. Again, if I had a chair, I would just try one arm and then the other. You don't need to have both of them up. And only if you're comfortable with this, we're going to let one arm open and then the other. So just that back and forth. And 3. And 4. And 5. Just one more. And 6. If you want to make that one harder, imagine there's a string from your thumb to your nose and try to follow the hand that's moving. And switch. So significantly harder because now we're getting our eyes and ears involved. Back up. Life is not about perfection. Life is about doing your best and getting better every day. 2 more. And 1 more. And just touch that foot down when you need to. Do whatever you need to do. Give it a little shake. Okay, same thing on the other side. We're going to bring that foot either up or toes down or just feet together. Arms up. We're going to open up. And close. And open. And close. Let's go 1 more and then we'll go with that counterbalance, one side and then the other. So first, we're just having the arm movement. We're keeping that spot either on the wall. Trying not to look at our toes when we can. We want to be aware of our surroundings when we walk, so we want to get in that habit. And only if that's okay, imagine your nose is glued to your thumb. And switch. And back, let's go 2 more. And back, and 1 more. And back. Good job, come on down, give it a shake. Nice work. From here, we're going to go one foot forward and just back on the ball of the other foot. And that might be a balance exercise in itself. If that's really hard, that's your exercise. If you feel comfortable with it, and if I had a chair, the leg that's back, I'd have my hand on that chair if I needed it, or even hover it just above for the safety factor. And then from here, we're going to let one arm come all the way up and just imagine you're pushing it through the wall behind you and down. And if you have problems with neck extension or it hurts to look up, just follow your thumb with just your eyes coming up and down. Trying to track it. And only if that's okay and you feel like you can do more, now we imagine that there's a string from the thumb to the nose again. And just coming up, the higher you go up, the more difficult it'll be. So you just go to wherever your balance allows you to go, but also wherever your shoulders let you go. If there's a point where it hurts, that's of course where you stop. So if you can, but I really love this exercise because when I'm looking up here, I'm working on my posture and getting some spinal extension. And 2 more. And down. And very last one. And down. Perfect. And then from here, and just to know, when you step back, try to make sure, imagine there's headlights on your hips, try to make sure they stay forward as you come back. Often when we step back, we do kind of this, which means our low back's twisting. So we want to get in the habit when we step back that we make it all about that hip extending so that when we're walking, we're not jiggling or torquing that low back and causing wear and tear. And then from here, we're going to just, again, let's cinch the waist. Imagine there's duct tape from your ribs to your hips in the front, because often when we raise our arms overhead, we kind of stick our hips out, and that can be hard on the low back. So just think about cinching your waist and letting that arm come up wherever it will go, and you just try to imagine pushing your thumbs right through the back wall. And only if it's okay for you, and you can add on to this, try watching your thumb with just the eyeballs coming up and down. And let's go one more with just the eyeballs. Again, it's good for our vision to make our eyes do a little bit of work without our head moving. And then from here, it introduces the brain to that movement. And then from here, imagine there's a string from your nose to your thumb and try to follow it up. And if you can back, try to keep tight through here and down. And remember, if you have that chair, keep it posted and down. One more time. And down. Nice job. Give yourself a little shake. And now I'm just going to work on one that I sort of like, that challenges your foot. Feet are a foundation. They're a first contact with gravity. If my feet are falling in, my knees fall in. So having strong feet affects every joint above them. So really important to strengthen our feet when I can, or whenever we can. And then when you're ready, we're going to let our toe come out in front. And now, if you've had hip replacement, we never want to cross our legs unless you've had one. There's a few kinds of hip replacements that allow that, but if you don't know, don't cross your legs because it can put that hip in a compromised position. So we're just going in front if you've had a hip replacement and out again. Just tapping back and forth. No hip replacement, we go across that midline, back and forth. 3. And now only if you feel safe and your balance is reasonably good, then we add that little swing back and forth. And you should really feel that supporting foot working. Just a little swing back and forth. One more. Perfect, little jiggle. It really is tiring on the feet and ankles when you haven't done a lot of balance, so take as many breaks as you need to. And now the other foot just comes out in front, and we're gonna either that right to the in front of the other foot or cross if you're okay for it, and that back and forth. So the tapping's a little easier, gives us a second to touch the floor and get recentered. But if you want to make it a little more challenging, we try that swing. 2 and 3 and 4. Good job, a little shake. And now we're going to go forward and back. So with one leg, we're just going to touch forward. We'll start forward, center, and back. Gives us a few more points to catch our balance if we need to. And only if that's okay, then we skip that center point and just go forward and back. I like this one because it mimics walking. You want to make sure that you can go forward and back without having your back change. So trying to stay nice and even through your core. By really engaging here, you can help that to happen. And only if that's okay, if you want to make it harder, we'll come up and back. Now we're flexing when we come up because we're mimicking walking, so the heels strike. And when we come back in a step, our toe goes back. So just that heel and toe. Heel and toe. 2 more. Heel and toe. Last one. And toe. Good job, little shake. And now same thing on the other side. We're going to start with forward, center, back. Center, forward, center, back. Now let's skip the center if you're ready. Forward and back. Nice and tight through the core. Nice and tall, that invisible book on your head. And then only if you're comfortable with it, we'll go heels heels and toes. Heels and toes. Two more. Heels and toes. Good job. Shake it up. I'm going to finish with one that's a little bit of fun. It's actually one that my physio has me doing, and that's a ball toss. So again, it's about that visual tracking. So what we're doing is trying to watch the ball go up and down. And if you can, with that one foot, and then the other foot, the higher you throw it, the harder it's going to be to watch. So now we're adding a little more dynamic movement. So if you're a pickleball player or a baseball player, we're running to grab a ball, we're not always on perfect balance, we need to be able to react and watch situations. This is the one for us. One more. Perfect little shake. And now let's try that with heel to toe. And I'm running out of time. I'll just finish with my very last one. And once you master that, you can try walking and tossing. Kind of like rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time. Okay, we're out of time. I hope you enjoyed the balance workout. I hope you find it really helpful. Do as much as or as little as you need to or as you want to every day, but try to do some every day because it will make a big difference in your quality of life if you feel safe